was a lot easier to watch because going out on the Friday night, I'd already stayed up till stupid o'clock in the morning, like 10, 11 in the morning on Saturday. So I didn't wake up until like 6:30 in the afternoon. So usually I am like struggling to stay conscious as it's getting to like the 19th, 20th hour that I've been awake. This time round, it was just like, yeah, this is just the time I would go to bed in a regular 12-hour cycle. Went on fucking ages though, mate. It didn't end until 8:30.
Fucking hell. I didn't even
That's
stay up
not
for the prelim this week. I just committed to watching it all on Sunday.
That's a strong effort. Do you just do it Sunday morning with Kate?
I start while she's like walking out. She doesn't mind missing the prelims, and then kind of the main card will kind of start around about midday for us. Kind of just watching it all through.
Nice. Well, we might as well get into it, guys. Hello, welcome back to the MMA Split podcast, where we like to talk about MMA, UFC, pretty much a bunch of other random stuff, more recently in general. But I think this episode is going to be far more MMA focused because we've had the massive UFC at 273 pay-per-view card, I should say, in the books. Plenty to talk about, certainly delivered on a lot of different fronts, a lot of talking points, and a little bit of news to touch on as well. Usually we start top to bottom. I don't know about you guys. I kind of feel like we should talk about Burns Chimaev before anything else.
That was probably.
I mean,
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
in any rush to have to break down that zombie fight, so I could live with that.
Wasn't really a fight though. Let's be honest.
I've got a lot to say, but it's going to weigh heavy on my heart. Let's get the fun stuff out of the way first.
Yeah. Before I say anything else, let's just look at this. There were three massive underdogs in these main three fights. Two of them were title fights. This one was the main event. This one, in many ways, I think had the most questions around it because we didn't really know how good Chimaev was. There was a lot of imagination running away with things. He was being viewed at as this unstoppable monster. I kind of definitely was believing that as well. We could have got a blowout. Instead, what we got was arguably fight of the year. And I think full credit goes to Gilbert Burns for taking the fight, doing as well as he did in the fight. Full credit goes to Chimaev as well. And I like the fact that there's no doubt that we can say Chimaev's legit, but I also like the fact that he's been humanized, at least for me. This is a human being who, if we really think about it, probably wouldn't be Usman if that was going to be his next fight, in my opinion.
When we had that discussion and you asked me who I thought the liveliest of the three dogs were, and I said Burns, and you were astounded by that. It wasn't so much that you thought that I was underestimating Aljo too much. It was more that you really didn't give Burns a chance in this one. Because I didn't think it was going to play out like this, but I did kind of call it, you know. He's got a very aggressive style. He's going to be susceptible to someone that's got good heavy counters. That's Burns. And as soon as he took him to the ground, he didn't want to fuck around with that submission game, which I knew was going to be a huge advantage for Burns as well. And it definitely changed the fight, you know. It meant that it was on the feet that Chimaev was going to have to take risks and have success. And it's why he lost round two. It's why like all three rounds were so fucking amazing, but the performance from him in rounds 1 and 3 is phenomenal. But yeah, the fight of the year for sure. I think you can close the books on that one. If we get anything close to that, it's a good year. It's a really good fucking year.
It's fight of the year so far. I think there's enough time for there to be other candidates because, okay, so where do I think Chimaev's humanized a little bit? The lack of head movement really stood out. Very dominant wrestling, but you can tell that, like, I mean, the guy's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, so you can't blame him, but you could tell that there's an understanding of my jiu-jitsu's not quite where some of these other guys are. And when I feel something I don't like, I'm not going to want to get involved in that. And I actually think that's quite sensible to know your limitations in that regard. But yeah, I mean, that's the big thing for me, man, is I was so impressed with Burns. I was so glad it was a fight instead of just like an absolute mauling for obviously for Burns' sake and for entertainment's value. And it's kind of nice to know it's like, okay, this is what happens when no matter how great these guys can look lower down, when it gets to the absolute elite of the elite, okay, people can get caught, but nobody gets completely out, you know, nobody gets truly just smashed through in that division. And you know, before this fight, I was thinking that's it. Chimaev's the guy. He's just going to smash through everybody. I kind of think Usman would beat him right now. A couple of fights more may be different, but if that was the next fight, I think you look at the shots that Burns landed, you know, you look at the size difference now, is able to counteract that. I just kind of think Usman would have his number if they were to fight right now, which is good because it means that Chimaev is still as good as he is, but has areas that he needs to grow and improve in, which is what you want for a young fighter.
Yeah, well, you say his head movement's terrible. His head movement's always been terrible, and it's not just a lack of.
You don't
understanding
notice it when people are getting smashed, though.
Well, no. If you go back and watch his fights before the UFC as well, it's a consistent thing. The guy is very aggressive. It's impossible to have an aggressive forward style like that without leaving yourself open. It's not so much poor technique, it's a risky gambit. That's why I see it as a byproduct of. But he's always had this issue. It's just we haven't seen him go up against someone resilient enough that he's been forced to deal with it. And he can fucking deal with it, apparently. I was really, really impressed with the quality of his chin. Because those boys both landed some fucking haymakers at different points in that fight. Really was such a fun fight.
So he's
As for
fighting.
Usman, God, sorry.
So he's definitely fighting Usman, right? Next.
No. Edwards is going to fight Usman, and I think they're probably going to look to do Chimaev against Colby as a title eliminator.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he matches up well against Colby.
I hope he fucking demolishes Kobe.
I think
one thing's like, can you just tilt your camera just a bit more forward, just so your head's a bit more center in the frame?
Sorry about that. I must have.
Perfect.
Is that better? Do you like it?
That is looking perfect, mate. We can see you in perfect framing, which is just what you want. Yeah, like I don't think he beats Usman. I think Burns over in a rematch would still be a really tough, close fight. But I think Colby doesn't really have the power. I don't think he's got any shots that can really kind of like, sort of, what's the word? Kind of repel Chimaev. There's nothing that
he's not going to earn his respect in the stand-up game. Not over 3 rounds, not over 5 rounds.
And the
too
thing
big
is
to take down as well. Colby's
too
small for a guy like Chimaev, and he's too fucking strong.
And there isn't the jiu-jitsu threat. So Chimaev would be willing to take him down because, okay, maybe he could out-scramble him or something, but I don't think Chimaev's going to be worried about having an arm taken, having his neck taken, triangles, anything like that.
Not to the same degree. He's going to feel a lot safer in his guard. I don't know if he would pull guard at any point. If Colby did manage to get him up against the cage and take that kind of back position that he loves so much, I would see Chimaev just kind of separating and spinning around. I just don't think Colby can hang on to him like that. I just don't think Colby can get him down. I think Colby can bother him. I think Colby can push the pace. I think Colby can maybe get outside the first round. But yeah, I think ultimately he is just going to be a stain on the bottom of Chimaev's boot. And I can't fucking wait. Very excited for that.
Yeah. Thing I liked as well is people are criticizing this, and I think it's really fucking stupid, but it was nice seeing that other side of Khamzat's personality as well. I don't know if you guys saw his post-fight media scrum interviews.
I didn't. I've seen little like clickbait quotes taken here and there.
All about the clickbait.
He said it was hard fighting him after he'd like met his kids and everything, and having to think like, oh, this is a dad. This isn't just like someone willing to die like me.
Well, he kind of that was an element of it, but he was more connected to like people think I don't have respect for these guys. Like, no, of course not. I have loads of respect for these guys. Like, I like the game. I've watched all these other people play the game, and I've tried to learn bits and pieces from them. And I love this shit. This is what I do. But it's like, don't think I don't respect these guys. It's like, I saw, and then it's when he mentions like I saw Gilbert's kids, and they're like, you're gonna fight my daddy, and he's like, oh fuck, man, I don't want to fight a daddy. I just want to fight a killer like me. So I feel like he's been humanized in a lot of ways, not just in terms of his abilities, but his whole kind of like, you go back a couple of years and there was this sort of like enigma to him. You know what I mean? Your imagination kind of filled in a lot of the gaps. And I think that kind of led to so many people sort of jumping on this hype train as early as they did. And it's interesting how many people are disappointed with this. It's like, oh, you didn't just smash the number 2 guy in the world, therefore we don't like you anymore.
I haven't really heard much of that, but those people are idiots. They are fucking idiots. Although, to be fair, my favorite moment of the fight is Darren Till's face after round 2. Just like, oh, why am I here? I just don't really want to be here right now. Round 2 was not a good fucking round, but
if he gets hit with that shot, if he gets hit with that
God.
right hand a minute earlier in the fight, I'm not sure if he gets out of it.
Yeah, but he does. Oh, he didn't, and he does get out of the rounds. Darren Till gets to celebrate afterwards. I'm not sure he wanted to be in that locker room if he didn't get the nod. But Jesus Christ, I've heard people say, "Oh, Burns definitely won the fight." Burns didn't win the fight. Burns won round 2. Chimaev looked amazing.
I thought the thing is, and this is the thing, I watched some highlights and a couple of rounds back of a few of these fights, because my opinion, first time watching on the Burns fight, is I kind of thought he might have won the 3rd round. Sly, you were kind of with me on that as well, weren't you?
Yeah, I was definitely with you on that. Wait, which one? That he won the
Burns,
first round?
The 3rd round.
3rd round, yes, but not the first round.
No. First round was Chimaev, second round was Burns. We both kind of thought that Burns might have got it in the 3rd. And when I rewatched the highlights video, Burns landed very big, noticeable shots. But for a large in-between moment, Chimaev was hitting him with consistent, hard shots that were landing and doing damage.
Was it the jab that was getting him every time? They're quite hard jab.
Hard jab. And also the thing is, Burns looked fucking knackered after... With 2 minutes into the 3rd round, Burns looked like he had given everything he had to give.
Yeah, he's barely standing for a number of reasons at that point.
Yeah.
Also, I was just gonna say, like, you remember when we used to say we didn't know how good O'Malley was yet? That's where we were with Chimaev until this weekend. But fair play to him for handling what was quite a touchy 2nd round. That was an illegal down kick, kick to a down.
It didn't land. I rewatched it. I didn't land.
Okay.
Doesn't land.
Yeah,
Poor decision
awful.
throwing that. That is. I understand why Chimaev was so pissed at him. No bueno. That was fucked up.
I think Burns was just in that fucking feral mode at that point. You know what I mean? He sensed this was his moment and he was just going to throw fucking everything at the hurdle. And I think there's an element as well with a guy like Chimaev, so much pre-fight, the way he was sitting on the cage when he was coming out. There was so much of that gamesmanship, that kind of like, sort of macho-ness kind of idea. And I think some of it was he was trying to kind of get that kind of street doggedness, viciousness into it a little bit. You're not the only fucking gangster here. I'll fuck you up too. This is a street fight, motherfucker kind of attitude.
Yeah, the crowd and the ref have gone, all of a sudden just got real,
Yeah.
Still, can't be pulling that shit.
There's a great example of this, mate, where in boxing, when Bernard Hopkins fought Trinidad. And Trinidad was undefeated, massive favorite. He was the big star. Everyone, Bernard Hopkins was just expected to lose. And Bernard Hopkins just meaned him. And there were 2 different points where he punched him for just kept wailing into him for a good 8 or 9 seconds after the belt had gone. Ref's pulling him off. He pushes the ref off, goes back to punching him. As they're pulling him away, getting in his face, just trying to show him, just like, this is the fucking streets, bitch. This isn't a boxing match. You don't get to be clean here. And it completely intimidated Trinidad. He wasn't able to... He ended up getting knocked out in that fight, but just the whole fight, he just wasn't able to stick and move, wasn't able to be the sniper. And said afterwards it's the most intimidated he'd ever felt in a boxing ring.
It doesn't work with Burns. I thought the headbutt at the end of the fight, as nicely tried to make it seem, there was definitely something behind that. I think these two seem to be on good terms now, right? There's some mutual respect there. I haven't read much of the fallout, to be honest, but
they could end up fighting again.
Yeah, it looked pretty fucking intense even at the end of the fight. So this was a lot of fun.
People's main event certainly delivered. Let's go into the title fights, and we will talk about Volkanovski and Zombie. Biggest underdog on the card, It was certainly in the group of the fights we were like, doesn't matter who you think's going to win, nobody should be this much of an underdog when the guys are all at this high level. In all honesty, man, I think the bookies were a little bit generous to Zombie, if anything. You know, you saw the level of difference, and it was the disparity between the two was not as different, to me at least, as when Amanda Nunes or Shevchenko's had some of their dominant wins. It's just Zombie's old. He's lost a pace. His hand speed, his processing speed, his reflexes aren't as quick as they used to be, and he probably even in his prime wouldn't be able to keep up with Volkanovski. I thought Joe Rogan said it brilliantly. He was just like, I don't think Zombie quite accounted for how quick Volks was going to be.
Well, I mean, even fucking Zombie came out and said, you know, thank you for showing me what level of champion really is. You know, now I know I can't get there. He's going to go away and reassess what his career is going to be like now. Go on.
No, I think that's true. Volkanovski now can finally fight for the actual title. Don't know if you heard, but I think it was yesterday that Cejudo has put himself back into the WADA testing pool. So I'm guessing that is the fight.
You consider that the actual title over the Holloway trilogy?
It's it's hard. I don't know, but Cejudo was undefeated. Was he? How many?
No, he lost to Mighty Mouse the first time.
Yeah,
and he lost to Benavidez on a point taken away.
But then But then he retained the title for quite a while, no?
But it wasn't at featherweight. It wasn't at featherweight. That was at bantamweight. No.
He defended flyweight once, bantamweight twice, right?
Okay.
Once. Just Cruz.
Just Cruz, and then
retired. Yeah, he didn't hold either belt for a long time.
He's been calling out Volkanovski because he doesn't just want to come back and try and regain the belt he's already had. He wants to try and do something, the new thing, the big thing. I think there's also an element of if you go away and come back and then lose in the division that you used to be champion, everyone will say that you weren't quite as good. Whereas you can go away, come back and fight in a new division. Even if you lose, it doesn't discredit anything that you did in your previous divisions. It's an understandable move, but I'd much rather see Cejudo fight the winner of Aljo versus Dillashaw, to be honest.
Probably, but I do think he just wants the legacy fight. And it's a good thing because Volkanovski's asking for the 155 title shot. Doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of fights that kind of need to happen in that division, but who knows, a year and a half, 2 years down the line, he's kind of got two fights on deck at 45. The Cejudo super fight of sorts and the Holloway trilogy, right?
And obviously, after that, Sean O'Malley, no?
Again, that's bantamweight.
Yeah.
Oh my
but
God,
you have got
confused.
Yair Rodriguez, Arnold Allen coming up, Chikadze will be back, Calvin Kattar will be back. You know, I think we're going to get Kattar Allen, right? But there's a lot that could happen in the featherweight division. The thing is, Max and Volks have proved that they're head and shoulders above the rest. And Volkanovski's kind of got that fight and the Cejudo fight. If he wins both of them, I don't know how interested he's going to be in another title defense at 45 over that 55 shot. And I think that once he gets those two out of the way, we'll be far enough down the line. And maybe Islam Makhachev is champ and no one really wants to fight him, and that could be a good one to put together.
Here's the thing. I think he needs the Max one because he wants to absolutely shut that door on who's the best definitively. Aside from that, he's 34. And I think if you're looking at how do you make yourself considered one of the greats of the sport or greats of your division, well, you're not going to have as long of a title reign as Aldo based on the age that you got the belt and the age you are now. So it's not going to be about getting as many defenses as, you know, the largest number of defenses. You need to beat Max because he's still the most popular featherweight champion. He's the guy that I think a lot of people still want to be champ and still kind of will have that argument that, you know, in the mind that he is. The thing that neither of those guys have done yet, though, is the double champ status. And if you have double champ status, having beaten Aldo, Max 3 times, got some title defenses, you've got something over every single one of those other guys to stake a claim as one of the greats of the sport. So I'm completely with you.
I agree.
Not now, though, right?
He won't be fighting at flyweight.
No. He needs. I think 2 more featherweight fights, maybe 3, and then you move up.
Okay,
Yeah.
guys, he's if you got him to come back, it's only likely that he's going to be fighting at bantam and at featherweight. He won't be going down to flyweight. Yeah.
No, not these days. I wouldn't imagine.
No, okay, but he could still have those 2 belts. And when he left, he was still holding the flyweight belt. Is that correct or not?
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Huh. Is it
Yes. So he was still the double champ
not?
when
He left. Okay.
he left, because they did a title fight for the flyweight belt between Figueiredo and Benavidez.
Oh yeah.
Figueiredo missed weight and then won the fight, and they couldn't award him the belt. And so technically, Cejudo still stayed the champion.
So he hadn't officially relinquished it yet. Then I don't know. In my mind, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of null and void. Like he was the bantamweight champ when he retired.
So I'm just saying, like, it could have been nice for him to be the only person ever to hold 3 different belts.
That's what he's going for. That's exactly what he's going for.
Yeah, but what I mean is that he's going for that, but unfortunately, the belt of the bantam, the flyweight has gone, so he's only going for 2 belts because he won't be able to drop all the way down.
No,
to
but
flyweight.
he'd still be the only person. He'd still be the only person that would have had, even if you don't have them simultaneously, he still would be the only person in MMA and certainly the UFC to ever have a belt in 3 different weight classes, which, regardless of whether it's simultaneous or not, is completely irrelevant. That would be a feat that I don't think you would ever see. I think you see once every 50 years, if I'm honest. I really do.
It would put him firmly in the GOAT discussion, as much as he might annoy people. But it's going to be a one and done. I truly believe that. He's coming back for a legacy fight. If he loses, done. If he wins, he's not going to want to tarnish that by losing again. So done.
Oh, right, that way.
Did he really make that much money, though, to take that attitude? That's the thing I can't.
I think the legacy is important to him. You know, we discussed money over legacy with Ngannou. For me, it's like a no-brainer. He wants the money. For Cejudo, I'm not sure, because he has other avenues. He does, the media work in the Spanish language broadcasts, and him and Eric Albarazin, do a great job coaching, and I'm sure he's making a good amount of money, because he only coaches really high-level fighters. He was coaching Korean Zombie in this one, obviously alongside Eddie Char. But, he does all this supplementary coaching for teams. I'm sure he's making more than enough money doing what he loves. I don't think he's going to come back and be like, right, I'm going to put a few million in the bank. I think he's just going to come back for legacy, because if he was going to come back and try and make some fucking money, then he'd be doing it at 35.
This was the one title challenger I've seen him train with. Sorry, I was going to say it's the one title fight challenger I've seen him train with where it didn't really seem to make too much of a difference. Just to get us back into the featherweight title fight. I mean, fuck, man. Volkanovski's fucking good. I don't know what else you can say. The guy was
too fast, too crisp, and every round he kind of turned up the volume and the output. Every round, the significant strike differential increases. Just, it was ugly at the end of it. What do you guys make of him asking Korean Zombie if he's okay before the 4th? At the end of the 3rd or before the 4th?
Totally okay with it. It's only going to affect his performance. I think it shows that
things like this are a bit too disrespectful, But I feel this way about stuff like football and team sports. When it comes to combat sports, there is a level of it shouldn't even come down to him. A Korean Zombie might, as the name suggests, might not know what's best for himself when it comes to taking damage. His corner should have thrown in the fucking towel. At the end of the 3rd, there should have been no 4th.
It's not
disrespectful.
I don't think it's disrespectful, man. It's it's a violent sport that can end at any point. It's not like if this was tennis and fucking Federer was playing somebody and went 2 sets to love up, 6-0 up, 6-0 up, and then for the 3rd set went out and says, "You sure you want to do this, buddy?" I'd say it's disrespectful. But when
Yeah.
you've punched a guy 106 times in the face and you've knocked him down at least once in every single round, and you know that you were at minimum 4 points up over those 3 rounds, because one of those rounds they would have given as a 10-8, hands down, with the dominant display, if not more.
That third round, yeah.
That third round. It's and you know that the ref is looking at the situation, the doctors come in and look at the situation. The corner probably should have stopped the fight. And you're a bloke like Volkanovski that is in your flow state. You're not necessarily a vicious guy. You're an athletic competitor, and you're not necessarily there to hurt people. That you're there to perform and win fights. I think it's perfectly normal. I'd say the only thing I'd have against it is that if he'd let his guard down or started going a bit easier on Zombie, and then Zombie was to land a front kick to the face and knock him out, I'd say, buddy, he's still in the fight, man. I wouldn't be dropping your guard and thinking that it's all right to ask him if he's all right and put your guard down, basically.
Oh yeah. Who was that Korean boxer that died? Fighting Bam Bam.
Dong-Yo Kim or something back in the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dong-Yo Kim.
Yeah, around
Dong-Yo
that time,
Kim.
I guess.
That's
It
a
reminded
famous
me of
story,
that.
man.
Reminded me
That's
a
a
lot
very-
of that. But at this level, you can't be going like, I'm this much better than you. You really need to think about it. You know, it's like, I didn't really like it when Habib to Michael Johnson was just, I'm just smashing you. Just quit. It's just better for you. I just feel like, as tough as it is for Volkanovski, you just got to like do your job and keep your lips sealed about that. But it's not his corner should have thrown him a towel. His corner could have thrown him a towel. They definitely should have thrown in the towel. I think it's just a really, really bad decision from his team to allow him to carry on taking that damage. I mean, everyone's got a chance, right? But it wasn't worth the risk, the damage he was taking for that puncher's chance.
So, a couple of concessions I'd make to that. I feel that with the Khabib example you gave, that I feel comes from a different place. Like, yeah, there's an element of common man give in, but that's more of the psychological. That's the psychological part of the fight of I'm mentally breaking you. Whereas that's not what Volks was doing to Zombie. Do you see what I mean? Volks was.
Let me put it this way: if I'm competing with someone in something, even if it's not for anything. We're not professional or whatever we're doing, be it FIFA, football, like board games, whatever. If someone's so much better than me, that they're just kicking my ass, that they just start taking it easy and taking the piss and kind of like patronizing me in that way, it makes me furious. I would rather lose by a huge margin and get a chance to like try and raise my game and improve throughout that moment, even if I am getting my ass kicked, try and close the distance. And anytime someone takes their foot off the gas and then is like vocal and brazen about it, whether it comes from a shitty place or a place of concern, there's that thing of me that I'm like, just in principle, this is too disrespectful. Once you take it to a professional level, the stakes are that high for a championship. That kind of accentuates that sort of feeling for me.
It's different with fights.
The damage he's taken, I cannot believe. I understand why Herb let it go on as long as he did. You got to do the right thing as the ref and wait for the appropriate time to stop it. Maybe could have stopped it a little sooner. His corner should have fucking stopped it after the third round.
But dude, again, just to touch on your point, when it comes to fighting, I don't think it's disrespectful. I don't. Because one, I think it's fucking war from the moment that buzzer goes. And two, I think the damage element means that you can't look at things in quite the same way. You have to factor in, the fact that the person's got to be alive at the end of it. You bring up, his name was Kim Duk-Yu, and the fight was Ray Mancini. It's the reason boxing matches aren't 15 rounds anymore. And in terms of what his mentality, and then this is again touching why the corner should have stopped the fight, is he'd carved into the wall of his dressing room, win or die, before he walked out. Like, that was literally his mentality. And Ray Mancini was he didn't carve it into the wall, but his mentality probably would have been exactly the same. That's kind of why you need the corner to save
exactly.
you
So it's one of the reasons you have a corner. Have you seen the documentary on that Ray Mancini fight?
I
It's
haven't.
actually
I know the
directed by
story.
it's directed by the Korean dude's son, and it
Oh
touches
wow,
a lot on Ray's relationship with his father as well. It's a really good documentary. I can't remember what the fuck it's called.
it's a
Um,
fucking amazing fight.
yeah, no, like for me, like I appreciate where Vogue's coming from, but it kind of annoyed me a little bit. I'm like, it's not on you. You keep your head in the fight, because if you get caught with something now, you have no one to blame
Well,
but yourself, and
well,
it's his
that's
corner's job. They're supposed to be looking after him.
that's a genuine factor. The other way I can look at it though is that sometimes a wounded animal is its most dangerous. So it's not always sometimes like you talk about going easy on it. But if Volks had just decided for 2 rounds, I'm just going to stick on the outside, move and jab, I still wouldn't have thought that's disrespectful because for all he knows, Zombie's just going to stand there and fucking load up an absolute haymaker every time he comes close. So, you know,
That's
I know,
not
I mean,
taking your
it's,
foot off the gas. That's shifting your strategy. That is just a good way to, like, once you've got a 4-point lead in the
yeah.
bag, you can stick on the outside and coast. And they say, get on your bike, win the fight.
Um, what I would say is this: I think Volkanovski was in such a flow state that I don't think it would have mattered. When you're in the zone, you're in the zone. Like I don't
You
think
look fantastic.
nothing was beating him that night. And the guy's proven that he's a champ. He's a real champ. You can't take it away from him. He gets a good name on his belt. He gets a solid defense. Obviously, we still got to see Max, but as for Volkanovski, as for Zombie, I'd like him to see maybe have one more fight if they do a card in Korea again or something like that, just so he can retire in Korea.
Wow.
Maybe, who knows? He might want to adopt more of like a Clay Guida kind of role. Jim Miller, these guys still kind of get a like ride high every now and again, show
Cowboy.
how good their skills are. Yeah. Although Cowboy seems to take all of the wrong fights, really.
He's fighting soon again, isn't he? Poor Cowboy.
He's fighting Joe Lozon.
Oof.
That's
I
both
mean,
of them
it's
doing it.
that's a retirement fight if I've ever fucking seen it. Like, I think they've taken that fight on the agreement that both have to retire. And the sad part is Joe Lozon's a beast, man. Like, he gets Cowboy to the ground. That fight's only going one way.
Cowboy's got a really good
He's got a good
submission
jiu-jitsu
game.
He's
Great
not
off
Joe
his
Lozon.
back as well. I mean, Joe Lozon did struggle with, and I know he is a bit of a jiu-jitsu waste, but he won the fight against Marcin Held. But it was really like a bad night from the judges. Even Joe Lozon was like, I didn't win this fight. I don't know if a guy like Cowboy is going to struggle with Lozon on the ground too much. It's a good fight. It's a great fight. I'm still backing Joe Lozon in that one, but I'm taking it by decision. I think it probably does go to the ground a few times. Oh, it's just such a pain in the bum. Can you hear that?
What is it?
Thank God. I'll ignore it. It's the dog.
Well, I think we talked enough about the fight that I don't think brought us any joy, although it was very impressive to watch. Let's talk about something that brought me so much enjoyment. My happiest moment. In fact, if I was to picture out a single moment of just absolute joy, it would be the third round of Aljamain Sterling versus Jan, where Aljamain has his back and just just looks up and gives a big old smile because he knew everything he said for the last year and a month got vindicated in one 25-minute performance. First things first, I think it seems to be very 50-50 on this, but I feel like we're all kind of in the Aljo 1 camp.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't understand how Dana White thinks Jan won the first round. It's for me, the first 3 rounds, Aljo, all day. The last 2 rounds, Jan.
Jan, all day.
It's easy. I don't understand any kind of discussion about this because it's just clear cut. It's judges got it right. It's just easy. It's simple.
Listen, nobody's going to deny that Aljo was on his bike first round, but and Jan threw some strikes. But the thing is Jan only landed like 3 strikes. There were a lot that just missed or were out of range. And I think if you watch that and you think those of landing, it gives a different impression. But Aljo was the one landing the body kicks and sticking and moving for his opportunity. I thought first 3 rounds, picture perfect. Picture perfect. And even just the energy management in that first round wasn't overly wild, wasn't trying to force everything and sprint for it. Monitoring, disciplined, focused, had belief that wasn't. He chased the takedown in the 5th round like a motherfucker, but the takedowns he got in the second and third round, it was what you want. It was opportunistic. It was just waiting for the moment, darting underneath, and I mean,
And the back take.
The back taking and the back control, man. The number of times where I thought he was, I've seen other guys allow the guy to twist and turn and end up being on the bottom, and then it all shifts round. But he just had the ability just to maintain that position. The second round was a masterclass for me between just ground and pounds, the submission threat.
Do you guys think that Jan did look a bit of a, and I'm not making excuses for him. Aljo had a great night. Aljo looked back to himself. I underestimated, didn't think he had a chance. Jan did look a little off his game, particularly
angry. Looked angry.
Yeah, angry. And also, obviously, his corner wasn't there, and the makeshift corner he has is operating through a translator. Even when they said, I think in the 3rd round, well, this is right in front of Jan's corner, I'm like, I don't know if that's any fucking good swim. When Aljo has that body triangle hooked up, you want to get that foot down to the ground to alleviate the pressure, and he leaves the foot up the whole time. It's just those stupid little things that you might be missing in a fight, where if you have your corner there, they can say, look, what are you doing? Turn the other way, get that foot down.
It wasn't.
But
it wasn't.
I don't think it would have made a difference, the ultimate score in those first 3 rounds. Yeah, he could have made it nicer for himself in those first 3 rounds. He couldn't have won those first 3 rounds with Aljo fighting the way he did with those back takes and with that body triangle.
Well, also, dude, he fought angry, man. I think he completely underestimated. I think he took from the first fight way too much overconfidence, way too much. And I think he just thought, I'm going to go in there. I am real champ. I will smash this chicken. And man, you watch that first fight back. I know the narrative is that it's really obvious that Sterling is sprinting for those first 2 rounds. And you can tell that it's nervous energy. But it doesn't change the fact that, he still fucking landed a lot. He still had success. You could still see that there were things that were going to cause an issue. And, Aljo was the one that got in his head, I think, a little bit. And I was delighted, mate. I was delighted. And the fact that he gets...
Very long guy between rounds. Look, Aljo, look at that motherfucker. Yeah.
And he was, and to be honest, even in that 4th and 5th, it's like... and one thing I would give Aljo real credit for, he's very smart on this. And, the problem with Corey Sandhagen had with Jan is it was best skill sets matching up against each other. But Aljo, with his jiu-jitsu, has this ability to kind of survive and this willingness to just negate and not engage and not allow Jan to keep up pressure in the stand-up. And really, I think it's the same reason I actually think Jan need him in the head in the 4th round is I think for somebody like Jan that likes to be able to sustain striking and boxing pressure, Sterling's not a guy that lets you do that. And you look at those last 2 rounds, Jan needed to be going for the finish. And I don't think he could ever get a sense that he had, Sterling where he wanted to be for long enough to land the kind of shots he needed.
Oh, no, Sterling was fantastic. Go on, sorry, Slow.
No, I think that's right. I was just agreeing with what Matt said. So
you guys read the
I'm
apology?
literally just saying I agree.
I have.
I was kind of pissed off. Obviously, my odds were on. I wanted Jan to win. I think it's just backing what you're saying. It's just the maybe the corner. As you said, I didn't know that. I was actually saying to Matt, why is he having everything translated? So I think the corner was.
Didn't get visas.
I think when he was in his corner, you could hear a guy shouting, a guy translating, and by then it's just not fast enough. I think Jan giving his back 2-3 times was awful. I don't know what's going to happen. I think in the rematch, Jan will probably win. I think it's just one of those things. It's a bit like the
I don't know now because
no,
some guys are just tough to fight.
Sterling didn't wilt in the same way like he did in the first fight, and I'm wondering how much the neck injury, as much as it affected his performance, how much did that in fact affect his training before the first fight? Because this looked like a much improved Aljo, and I can't remember how many times he's been booked for 5 rounds and fought 5 rounds, but I believe he is a 5-round fighter. And I'm not going to get down on him for looking like a little tired in the 4th and the 5th, because, you know, Jan is still a fucking beast. But also, this was a great performance. Go on.
I kind of thought one of the second round should have been a 10-8 as well. And if you're Aljo's corner, like, you're in with a dangerous guy, and you're probably 3 up. In fact, you're more than likely 3 up, if not 4 up after those first 3 rounds, because in your mind, you're probably thinking you've done enough for a 10-8 for the second round. So, you know, and Jan's obviously going to come out like an absolute bat out of hell and do everything he can to try and fix it. So that's just the fight, how the fight plays out sometimes, you know. Some guys just have your number. You know, the problem Jan has is that because he's not able to be as offensive with his jiu-jitsu, I think somebody like Sterling, and also because Jan doesn't have that like one punch knockout power, he kind of has to sort of like read you and counter you and wear you down. If you just don't engage with that and mix up and kind of force him to be aggressive and then take your moments underneath, it's going to be extremely difficult for somebody like Jan to really put that kind of the pressure that he wants on. Like, the interesting thing, and I think it's looking like he's going to face TJ Dillashaw now to defend his belt. You know, Jan probably doesn't match up well with TJ Dillashaw, but TJ probably is going to match up quite well against Sterling. That's actually going to be a really tough test because fuck me, TJ can wrestle. Outstanding jiu-jitsu defense, as is comfortable enough to be in dangerous situations and stay in control. Obviously, I didn't really see too much of this in the Corey fight, but he's got that stance switching, that polished striking, excellent timing. You know, that is
high
not
fight IQ.
High fight IQ. That's not an easy fight for Sterling by any stretch, but it doesn't matter because whatever you say now, he is a vindicated champion. And you cannot take that away from him. You could after the first fight. You can't now. He's earned that belt. And as for Jan, listen, while Sterling's champ, it might take a couple. You're going to have to fight a winner of Rob Font versus Chita Vera and maybe another to get another shot at that belt. TJ wins it, that's a different story. All of a sudden, maybe it only takes 1 fight to get back there. But this is Sterling's moment. I love his Instagram post. Sly, have you seen this? The Aljo apology form.
No.
Have you guys filled it out?
I'm going to fill it out. Out of respect to the man. If you haven't seen this, Sly, so it's I'll read it out to you. So it's the Aljamain Sterling apology form. Written by Aljamain Sterling for you to send to Aljamain Sterling. You're meant to put your name, the date, and then reason for behavior. Option 1, the media convinced me he was done. 2, I didn't watch the actual fights. I don't know MMA. I only looked at advanced analytics. I was jealous of Aljamain Sterling. My favorite option, Mercury was in retrograde. And then underneath an option to say, I will hereby respect Aljamain Sterling and will not talk down on the future first ballot Hall of Famer.
Wow.
First ballot Hall of Famer, a little bit much, maybe, bit soon for that. But damn, man, you are the champ. Eat up those I told you so's. Go on Errol Hawani and give him 2 massive middle fingers because you get to be the champ now, man. What I did like that, you guys seen the meme? You know how Sterling was talking about, oh man, a bunch of people in Long Island got real rich because of these bookmakers. Somebody did put a meme and it was Aljamain Sterling's corner team. And it went, the only people that made money on Aljamain Sterling in Long Island.
It's a good team. It's nice to have him sort of back with his family, as it were. Seeing Ray, Ray Janelle, Marab in the corner.
I think this has strengthened. Nice. Before the fight, one thing I noticed when he was getting booed, which I thought was shocking, by the way. I mean, really glad that MMA fans aren't just in this xenophobic, everyone from Russia is bad thing. Really appreciate that, but kind of surprised that he got booed as much. But when he's getting booed, he just pointed at his corner team. And I think there was an element of like, these are the only people. Like, these are my guys. Fuck all the rest of you. So I wouldn't be surprised if this last year has made him even closer with his team.
Well, he's still cross training, so he's still doing Vegas and Long Island.
They're
But
his team, though.
it's just nice to see him in the corner for the fight. Obviously, always stayed on good terms with Matt Serra as well, but I think he's branching out with everything, which is a good thing to do. And yeah, like you say, he's a worthy champ now. He as much as he might have played up to it and acted like a prick after the first fight in terms of what he posts online, you could see his reaction in the octagon. He didn't really accept it. Now he can. He's going to get a chance to fight Dillashaw. That's a big legacy fight in this weight class. You're right. It is a bad matchup for him. I think though, without Aljo's threat with his frame, and if he can get,
he's long,
because Dillashaw's a little slow these days, and he's not well. If he's juicing, he's got to be smarter about it. So he's not going to be quite as fast. I feel like Aljo can catch him in a scramble.
Dillashaw looks slow. The jiu-jitsu, and the other thing is that I've never seen Dillashaw fight somebody with that level of jiu-jitsu. I don't know what that does to, he's fought guys that have good jiu-jitsu, he's fought guys that have black belts, but he hasn't fought somebody whose game is built around their jiu-jitsu quite to that same level that I can think of.
Yeah, I can't think.
I mean, I know that a bunch of guys have got outstanding jiu-jitsu. But it's not the focus of their game. Who's next? Sun Sao's got great jiu-jitsu, but it's not his game. Marlon Moraes has got great jiu-jitsu.
It's not plan A.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that takes away and whether he still is willing to wrestle as much. He was out for 2 years. He's been injured again. He's practically been out for another year. He's 36. Time catches up in that division eventually. So there's a lot of unanswered questions. I think do you know who I think would really be the best sort of kind of the worst matchup for Aljo is Aldo. No one takes Aldo down.
True.
Aldo cracks hard.
I could see Aldo being a real problem for him.
Yeah, potentially. The other one, I was thinking if he was serious about trying to make money and everything, so Cejudo would be licking his chops at a guy like Aljo.
Cejudo beats Aljo.
Cejudo would love that fight. He's not interested in that,
I think Cejudo would lose. Did Jan and Cejudo ever fight?
No. Jan wasn't even ranked back then.
Yeah, I think because I don't know if I think Jan and Cejudo is a very close fight, but I don't know why. I've got a feeling that Sterling could be a problem for Cejudo. I think Cejudo, seeing that Peter Yan got a bit messed up in the jiu-jitsu and all this, wouldn't want to fight Sterling.
So Cejudo's a gold medal winning wrestler, like Cejudo.
Yeah, but the wrestling, I'll always look at this. This is my theory. A really good wrestler often gets outdone by a very, very good jiu-jitsu. Because he goes for the wrestling and then he gets caught and gets trapped.
It has to be great jiu-jitsu built around a lot of sweeps and chaining submissions together, because wrestlers brute force their way through things, but also they're much more in control when they're on top. They're a lot more educated about how people are setting up sweeps, even if it is jiu-jitsu. And a lot of times we do see strong wrestling completely nullify elite jiu-jitsu. It really depends. The other big thing is, even though he's got a good frame to work with, Cejudo has got the shorter, stronger limbs, and it's going to be harder for him to kind of leverage something, whereas Cejudo's always got the opportunity to kind of work a Kimura to move out from bottom. And I just
I'd love to see the fight. Yeah, I'd love to see
the other factor. They're
all at the top of the tree for a reason.
Also, there's black belts and there's black belts. There's when you're talking about like that elite jiu-jitsu guy, I mean, it's the guys I could probably put on less than 10 fingers the number of people across all the divisions where their jiu-jitsu is so good that elite wrestlers would be concerned about it. And that list would be people like Gilbert Burns, Mackenzie Dern, Charles Oliveira, Paul Craig. Because the other factor is it depends what kind of like, somebody like Jacare Souza, amazing jiu-jitsu, but he was more of a top control guy. He didn't really like being on the bottom. So, that plays a huge factor as well. One of the things that makes somebody like Oliveira so dangerous is that he's so opportunistic. So, the problem that a Damian Maia would have is he could be nullified because Damian Maia was a top control guy. And if he wasn't, he wouldn't necessarily look to just go for a submission. He'd look to sweep and establish control where then he could work his magic. Now, that's kind of playing a bit of the wrestlers into the wrestler's skill set a little bit. Somebody like an Oliveira is going to be swinging, looking to get omoplatas, kimuras, triangles, arm bars, guillotines from the bottom. That's the danger that you deal with. It's attack, attack, attack from a guy like that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, either way, we're never going to see it because I don't think Cejudo worries about the money too much. He just wants the legacy. He's going to take one and done at 40, and that would be that.
Very much so. Well, listen,
I was wrong about Colby.
Big fights to come and more storylines to come, which is always good. And Jan's still at the top of the division, so he'll be in an interesting fight no matter what. Let's talk Tisha Torres. Let's talk Mackenzie Dern. Questions to you both first. Does anyone actually think Mackenzie Dern won that fight?
No,
yeah, of course.
No, I didn't. I thought Tisha took that.
I thought she won it.
You had money on it. You're biased. I thought Tisha won rounds 1 and 3.
I did 2 rounds. Yeah.
What did I say? I thought
it's close in the first, but
she was very aggressive. But for me, it's the same argument as if you think that Aljo won the first round against Jan, you have to also think that Tisha won the first round against Mackenzie Dern. Because Tisha outlands her, moving around the outside, striking. Dern is super aggressive, but not really landing that much.
No, and there isn't much, to pick in terms of like heavier shots or damage. It was just a clean one. Like Tisha Torres outlanded her by a reasonable margin. I had Tisha 2 rounds up. Yeah. I thought I'd fuck this pickup, but the judges, for whatever reason, just really, really wanted Big Mac to win this one.
This will be interesting. I think Slide's doing this now. Bring up the stats and have a look at it round by round. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, no, the round by round. But I think it was the first round is the one that's really close because it's 35-26, right? But I think it was in the clinch that Mackenzie Dern held her for quite a while. Also, she got 2 strikes in the clinch. So maybe the first round could have gone the Mackenzie way. In the second round...
Yeah, the judges gave her the first, but I don't see it.
In the second round, there was no strikes. The second round, it was 2-all.
Second round is some of the scariest jiu-jitsu. You want to talk about jiu-jitsu that makes wrestlers scared. That was terrifying.
But I think for me, the first and the second round were Mackenzie then. And then the third round, obviously, I think that was for Tisha Torres.
Here's a proof of how scary Mackenzie Dern's jiu-jitsu was in that second round. Mia, who knows nothing about jiu-jitsu and doesn't really understand fighting, and you would think would be the usual, like, casual gets bored because they don't understand the ground things, was just like this, clinching the seat at all times, watching it, just like, this is so tense. I'm like, yes, this is how fucking good grappling can be. You've got this woman trying to pull a mid-air, hanging onto a standing Kimura, which I don't think I've ever seen before. I didn't even know.
I like the way she pulled guard like that. She understood that Tisha Torres' legs were gassing just as fast as hers, so fuck it. This chick could do with slowing down a bit. I thought she was going to get that Kimura at one point. Tisha Torres did amazing to fight her way through it.
Tisha Torres is really good. She's so technical. Those spinning wheel kicks to the body were fantastic. The movement was good. I wouldn't have been angry at a draw. If you wanted to say that second round was a 10-8 just because of the sheer dominance of it. But there weren't a lot of strikes landing. She didn't really lock anything in 100%. So it is what it is. It's a bit of a let off.
It did finish largely in a neutral position as well.
Yeah, that's true.
She wasn't threatening much other than like, which way are you going to try and scramble so that I can trap you again? It was kind of like not even a Mexican standoff. It was more just like, look, It's round 2. We're near the end. Let's just chill for a sec. And then some elbows.
So here's a question for you guys, though. So Mackenzie Dern's lost twice, Ribas and Marina Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Ribas, I think, is the only person I've seen in MMA get back up off the ground in a round once Mackenzie Dern takes her down. Because Marina Rodriguez spent the entire first round on the ground. She didn't stand up until she was stood up at the end of the round. Like, I don't think you can get back up off the ground once Mackenzie Dern has you down in the strawweight division. I think it's either you tap or the round ends.
I mean, yeah, particularly since she really started taking things more seriously. Obviously, he's a striking coach, but since she's been working with Perillo, just her overall approach to the game looks so much more on point. I think you're right. I don't think outside of a stand up, a round ending, or you tapping, I don't think you do get back to your feet. And I don't know if I'd fancy her in that rematch with Rodriguez, but I fucking want to see it, and I'd really like to see it for a belt too. But we'll see.
I'd like to see it fight Yan. Not Peter Yan. Yan Xiaonan.
Yeah, Yan Xiaonan. Be a good fight. I don't know if she might be worthy of a slightly higher ranked opponent after this one.
Mate, there's nobody else up there apart from it's Marina Zhang Wei Li, Yan, and Rose.
They're doing Joanna Wei Li in the summer, right? Well, I can't remember what they booked it for.
They're doing it at 270. They're doing it at 276, 275, 275.
Okay, so when is Rose fighting Carla?
274.
I was gonna say it might be a good one to. Would you know what? I'd say maybe the loser of either of those two fights, and then if she has a good performance, straight to a title shot. If not, straight into a title eliminator. So if Yan Xiaonan's going to get her to the same point, if a good win over Yan gets her a title shot, or if it gets her an immediate title eliminator, I think that's a good fight. Otherwise, I think she's got to be thinking, I'm 1 or 2 fights away from a title shot. Even if I don't think she won this fight. It doesn't matter now. It's null and void. It goes down in the record books as a win for her. So, she gets to dream big.
I'd like to see Tisha Torres still get a good fight, though.
Oh, wait, you mean Tisha against Yan?
No. I was talking about Mackenzie, but I'm saying as an extra point.
Put that to the side. Yeah, I agree with you.
Even
Tisha
though
should
she
get
lost
a better fight off of this one.
Yeah,
because she didn't really.
Yeah, she should have been moving up, but she isn't. And we had round up the main card. We had Madsen versus Pichel. I mean, listen, man, Madsen is an outstanding wrestler. Pichel's a dog. He's going to land shots. I thought 30-27 was a bit unfair. I thought Pichel definitely took the second round, but
yeah, he did.
Judging was a little weird on some of these earlier fights. It got me very worried when we got to Aljo. What the results were going to be. But Madsen's a beast, man.
Madsen looked fucking tired as well, though.
He looks tired. Well, I think
that third round.
He's got that wrestler's cardio, though, man. He's built to sprint for 2 minutes.
I don't know, but he did so much stand-up work as well. He didn't look awful in the stand-up. He never really looked awful, but yeah, I just think if you can't go 3 rounds, you need to be fucking putting people away. Sometimes he scrapes by in these decisions. I want to be a bigger Madsen fan. I love European wrestlers, but I was not impressed with this performance.
Also, the big issue I have with him is if you look at the number of fights he's had, he's not, he's right there. Like he's about where you'd expect him to be. But the problem is because of his age, he hasn't really got the kind of time that he needs to improve to the point that he'd have to accomplish what he wants to accomplish. I mean, how old is he?
But wasn't he talking about retiring after the last one, or wasn't there some stuff with his wife?
37. He's 37 years old.
They're relocating to America, right?
Yeah.
So on the one hand, I'm like, okay, so he's really giving it a go. He should be super motivated. We should be seeing the best version of him. And on the other hand, I'm like, I'm pretty sure he was this close to like packing it all in for his family. And he had injuries. That's where his It was an injured camp. So
No.
all
He's had
right.
loads of injuries. He broke his
Oh
jaw
right.
in the
Yeah, I know
Huddle
that. But I'm saying, why specifically did you look like you were like dragging us in that third round? You know, what prevented
37.
you from training hard enough in this one? Yeah, but you want to be fucking competing in this. You can't just be like, well, you can't do an Alexei Olenek. Be like, I'm old. I'm going to fight one round, and if I put him away, I'll put him away. You know, it just doesn't make any sense to me. We'll see. I want to see. I got to judge Madsen very harshly on his next performance, because if he's relocating, I want to see him really switch it on if he's taking this seriously. If he looks like he's dragging us in the second half of the fight again, I'll never believe he's going to really be any better than like a top 15, a top 10 kind of fighter. You know, never cracking single digits.
I think he probably keeps winning until he gets to a top 15 level guy, and then I think it goes wrong. And also, he's 37 now. Even by the time he's ranked high, it's like he's not going to fight for a belt, even if he keeps winning until he's 40. And it's like, is your endurance, is your stamina going to improve from 37 to 40? It doesn't usually work like that. And
no. But if you haven't been training hard and you've had like 1 foot out the door, then when you switch on and get more serious, that should more than compensate for the natural drop off that comes with like old father time. Yeah. That's my view. I've never really believed since he's been in the UFC when he was it Bellator or Cage Wars before? I think it was Bellator, right? There have been flashes where you're like, this guy could be a fucking problem. This guy's an interesting skill set. He's hella strong. You know, let's see what he can do. And he's never really acted like he's bought in himself. So let's see. If he's relocating and taking it seriously, I want to see a big fucking step up. I want to see a big improvement.
I get what you mean. Well, we're going to see. Time will tell. He stays undefeated. We will see for how long. Another guy's undefeated. As we move on to the prelims, Ian Gary. Listen, man, Darren Weeks is a good fighter. I thought that was a really good win. And I'll tell you what I really picked up on in this. His composure in between rounds with his corner team. I'd love to see a high IQ fighter that's not, he's not in the corner going, he's managed his energy and he's able to communicate. I love that exchange in round 2. They're just like, what's going on? He's just like, I'm just struggling to land combinations on the guy. It's like, what is? It's like, it's all this. I can't figure it out. And him being able to articulate that well what he's finding difficult, then allowed his corner team to give him very specific advice that then helped him be a little bit more comfortable and dominant in the third round. And Darren Weeks came to fight, man. The guy's good. He's only had 1 loss. This is sometimes the kind of win that you want to see a young fighter get. It's not going to make him overconfident. It's not too much smoke blowing up his ass. He shows skills, he continues the work, and he gets to see where he needs to improve on.
And I love that the parting message at the end of round 2 was like, go back out there and have some fun. Or like, go have fun with it? Essentially was the gist of it. They knew exactly where they were. It was great communication.
I really like Ian Gary. I like the way he fights. I like his striking style. I like his fighting IQ. I think he's got a huge future in the sport. I'm really, really excited to see what this guy does.
Yeah, love him as a fighter. I don't think he's got the banner that he thinks he has. I would love to know all the sort of details between his breakup with Team KF. But all of that shit aside, fantastic fighter.
Also, dude, it's like, it doesn't seem like that's just like some girlfriend on the side that was doing distract. He's married, they're having a kid. Like, that's his girl, man. I mean, and he's ended up at Sanford MMA. I mean, I think he's.
Yeah, I'm not even bringing Layla into it, like, but I don't know how much part of that was the reason for him leaving Team KF, or if it was a catalyst for something that was almost inevitable, or what. Just don't have details. Would fucking love them. If you have details, like and subscribe, and then leave them in the comments. Dave, you're the nearest person I know to Dublin, mate. Go have a nosy for us.
Well, Dave, if you could do us that solid, that would be pretty cool. But no expectation there. Let's talk.
Expectation, Dave. Feet on the ground, mate. Take a trip.
I'd like to see a bit more wrestling, offensive wrestling being trained with Ian Gary. I think that was you could see that was the advantage that Darian Weeks had, is he had that wrestling threat, and that always is going to open up other strikes for you. If you're just doing the Izzy Adesanya thing, where you're being a very technical long striker, you do have to be so good and so focused and so on point every single point in the round. That's what I'd like to see. Even if you don't mean it, just go for the odd takedown. Just put that thought in the guy's mind.
He's going to get it at Sanford. I know
100%.
Hoof's a striking coach, but they have a lot of high-level wrestlers there. You know, he'll be getting rounds in all sorts. Mourinho. I think he works a bit with like Nick Lentz. Is Chandler still training there, I believe?
Chandler. Usman's doing some. Usman's been doing some sessions back there as well.
Yeah, he did. He helped out Dorino in his camp with Chimaev.
Yeah.
So
Cool moment.
It's nice to know there's still, that bridge was burnt.
I don't think it ever was, man. I think obviously it's a lot of emotions when you fight for a title, but I mean, Burns is such a fucking nice guy. I know you guys maybe don't watch Bisping's podcast as much, but he had this real dilemma where when he was doing his picks for Chimaev, where he obviously picked Chimaev. It's just like, fuck, I really hope Burns doesn't see that, because he's been on the podcast a bunch of times. Like, he's a fucking nice guy. And I know if I was watching a podcast with a mate of mine and I saw he picked a guy I was about to fight, I'd take it really personally and think, fuck you.
You know what? I always used to believe that Bisping was the kind of person that would genuinely mean that. I mean, I see all of his interactions with Dominic Cruz, like his interaction with Dominic Cruz in DC when they had their weird little, well, not even a spat really. I don't think, I think Bisping's always kind of like saying ahead, the sound of mind. I don't think he does praying out as much as he lets people he does. I think he handles his shit quite well now that he's, not competing every fucking day.
Oh man, I saw a fucking hilarious story on his podcast though. In India, some guys stole a bridge.
Sorry?
Stole a bridge.
In India, some guys stole a bridge.
Could you go into
like
details?
A full-on bridge over a body of water? They showed up wearing government jackets with fake passports and said they had to do some work to refortify the bridge, and then just overnight just took it apart piece by piece and then sold it for scraps.
Nice.
Brazen. I like the ambition.
Yeah, they seem to have gotten away with it as well, because the current police report describes them as unknown males who stole bridge.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Why not?
It's an impressive thing. Aside from the plane that what's her face, Anna, what's her real name?
Oh, well, the
Russian chick
she's from, the socialite con artist.
Yeah, Anna Delvey. Anna Delvey. She stole a jet, which I thought was pretty impressive. She didn't really steal it. She borrowed it. She rented it without paying, but still.
It's like the female catchment if you can. All right.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the prelims?
Well, we're already on the prelims, but we can talk about Anthony Hernandez. Solid win. Josh Frems looked like he did not want to be there in between rounds.
I don't know. Round 2, he fucking showed me something.
He was knackered afterwards, though, mate. You could tell how much it wore him out. Didn't he take the fight on short notice as well? It was meant to be somebody else.
Yeah, I'm not sure how short notice the short notice was, but it's his UFC debut. I know that people don't think of Fluffy as a monster, and not because of the nickname, just because he hasn't got enough name value, but the dude's fucking scary. It's like the last guy you want to be making your debut against. Because let's be honest, chances are, unless you're already a big name fighter in another organization, you're not going to be making your debut against a ranked fighter. So there's only kind of like a smaller pool of super scary people in every weight class that you don't want to be making your debut against. Fluffy Hernandez is definitely one of those guys at 185. But Frem fucking bounced back in a big way that second round. It's just
Fluffy put him on him in the third.
Yeah. This is a good fight. It wasn't like a super busy fight, but some of the shots that were landing, the kind of the back and forth. I love it. One guy wins, one fighter wins round 1, the other round 2. But I've come out for it round 3. Always makes for the best kind of fights. This is just a lot of fun. Good, wholesome family fun.
Most of the cards in this fight were fun. Moving down, Raquel Pennington did not back her. She put an absolute, pace on Aspen Ladd. Really took it to her. Broke her hand when she blocked the kick in the first round, which I didn't realize. But
really, because the combination she was throwing afterwards was just fucking nice. I would never have guessed that she had a broken hand.
I don't know if it's in the first or the second round, but you can see there's a kick where she sees it really late and she only brings one hand up to block it. And she just says, yeah, I realized immediately I broke my hand, but like, screw it, I'm just going to keep throwing it. It's just like, yep, that's why they call you Rocky. Right there.
Yeah.
Should have doubted you. Shouldn't have doubted you. I did doubt you. I apologize for that. And what I would say, though, is, I feel Aspen Ladd is very much somebody whose current ranking is not merited by any shape whatsoever in the division. But she looked awful. Awful. I mean, I just heard something say
in the background.
Yeah. Okay.
Talk about Aspen Ladd.
Yeah, I said it's because I'm a raging misogynist.
Oh,
that's what we always
ironic.
That's what we always figured about you, Kate. Look at you and you think raging misogynist right there.
It said Kate who?
Aspen Ladd got where she was, which I still think is a little undeserved and overhyped, on the back of her grappling and her ground and pound. And there just didn't look like she at any point even factored in trying to take a takedown. She just like, no, I'm just going to stand here in southpaw, which doesn't seem natural to me whatsoever, against somebody who's an outstanding boxer, way more experienced, way better than me on the feet, and I'm not going to use the one thing that got me to the dance that I might have an advantage of over. I thought it was really poor. It's the second time I've thought that her cornering and coaching team have been poor. Her fight against Norma Damone, I thought their advice in between rounds was poor. Here, I just thought she just seemed poorly prepared. And yeah, Rocky was stepping in for a different fighter. And so you'd think maybe if she was originally booked against a high-level grappler, and she was really training some striking looks and she didn't want to deviate from the camp, I can understand. She was going to be fighting Irene Aldana. Whatever Rocky did to her would have been even worse with Aldana if the plan was to try and stand with Aldana. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. The only thing she did right was make weight, at least for this one.
Yeah, well, all right, so we're not really Aspen fans. What do you think of Rocky's call out of McMahon for a title eliminator?
Good. I like that. Not for a title eliminator. I think that's total bullshit, but I like the fight.
Well, yeah, but I think that's, she's got an angle for these things, right? I like the attempt. I like what she's trying to do here.
But it's an interesting one because if she was to fight Sarah McMahon, I think if she was to win, I think Rocky would deserve a title shot, arguably. I don't think Sarah McMahon would deserve one. Because Rocky's won like 4 in a row.
I have to bring up the rankings, but I just feel like there's too many girls ahead of her.
I don't think there's loads, man. I mean, really, Jermaine, the problem is you've got Holly and Jermaine who haven't fought in ages. And they do kind of clog things up at the top. But if you take them out, she's just beaten Ladd. She's going to move ahead of Ladd in the rankings. You've literally got Aldana, Nunes, and
Kunitskaya, fair enough.
Having a kid.
Ranked ahead of her. So right now they've updated him. So Pennington's jumped up to 4th, so it's just Aldana home and Nunes ahead of her right now.
Is Durandamy 5th?
Durandamy is no longer in the rankings unless I'm missing that. I think they've taken her out for inactivity.
Fair enough.
Actually, no, they would have taken her out a while ago because no one else has moved in the rankings. So I don't know when they took her out. I haven't kept an eye on that.
I still think she's one of the top fighters in the division.
Yeah,
they probably
I don't think the Sarah McMahon win gets her a title shot, but who knows? But it's you got to give him that fucking shit to like market the fight. I thought Nate Diaz was dreaming when he called out Conor McGregor way back when. And then look what fucking happened. So, you know, you give him a soundbite, give him a reason to sell the fight. It is weird that Harry McMahon have never fought before.
Yeah.
So there's kind of that side to it too.
I'll give you that. Let's run through the rest of these very quickly. Obviously, Mike Mallow comes into the UFC, absolutely starches Mickey Gall. Always good to see. Great knockout, great character, great post-fight. He's a bit of a pattern here. If you ever really want to give some money to charity, just say that you're going to give your fight purse to charity on a pay-per-view card and guarantee Dana White's going to tell you to keep your money and pay it for you. I wonder how many guys are going to start doing that before Dana's eventually going to be like, okay, if every single winner wants to donate their fucking fight purse to charity, I can't cover everybody.
Or like when Dustin Poirier sells off his fight kit, Dana White's like, just have my boxes, mate. These are the ones I was wearing when I watched it. Sell them instead.
Somehow I don't think they'd fetch money in the same market. But there would be a market for that, just not the same market. You wouldn't put that on the Good Fight Foundation website.
Oh my god. I don't know, like Putin might buy it. He can clone a couple of Dana Whites, some Russian Dana Whites, build up Russian fight system, and then send them to Ukraine.
One's enough. We only need one Dana. Any more and the polarities of the earth might start to shift, which wouldn't be good. Let's talk about Alexei Oleinik. I feel like I'm waiting for this guy to get old, and I thought that moment had already happened. We talked about this on the pick show. Is he just losing to really good guys, or is he also losing because he's getting old? The thing is that he's losing to really good guys. And yes, he is getting old, but fuck me, he's still got a squeeze.
Yeah, but how fucking dumb is Vanderar? You even saw him think about it. He sort of tentatively went in to take it, like follow him down to the ground and take his back because it was there. And he went, "No, this is really stupid." And he thought, do you know what? Fuck it, you got to do it, haven't you? And I'm thinking, should put that. This guy's gone.
Go ahead, go. Say your point.
Alexei's got one fucking round in him. Not even really a whole round. I still wouldn't do that shit at the end of the third round. What are you doing following him to the ground? He has one way to win this fight. One fucking way. And as you've survived this far into the first round, his ability to take you down and create this moment or pull guard is pretty much gone. All you had to do was swallow your pride, get a stand up, stay on your feet, piece him up, and take either a finish or a decision. It wasn't going to go any other way until you followed him to the fucking ground.
They should put this fight in the Dr. Pepper. They should put this fight in the Dr. Pepper commercial. You know, he hits him down, goes to the ground, has him in the rear naked choke, and then it's Dr. Pepper. What's the worst that could happen? Obviously, in the advert, he'd then have to quickly drink a Dr. Pepper, and that would obviously then be when the situation would switch around for the advert to work.
It'd still be less ridiculous than what actually happened.
Yeah. You gotta love it, though, man. I mean, 44 years old, he's still getting subs. And that was a bad sub as well. Like, Vanderar was dry heaving on the mat afterwards, which is never a good sign. But this is quite cool. They bumped into each other backstage, and Vanderar literally said to him, like, "Can you please show me like how you did that? I've got to know how you did that." And Oleinik kind of showed him some tips on how he finished him, which I always like. I think that's cool.
They're going to fight again.
No, but I think it's
he's a cool guy. I like Alexei Oleinik. I didn't underestimate him. I overestimated Vanderar's intelligence.
I agree.
But, you know, fuck it.
Last two fights in the card. Obviously, Pietro Rodriguez was able to get the nod over the Kay Hansen that unfortunately had missed weight and now is on a 3-fight losing streak. And all of that excitement coming in is starting to go away. And it was a bad night for her. Pietro just had a bit more, and Kay Hansen's a bit lost right now. She's losing close fights, but she's losing and missing weight, which you don't want to do when you're not a name and you're losing 3 fights in a row. It's not it's a lot of negative checks in the box, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know if she gets cut, but
I don't think she gets cut. The division needs fighters.
it's hard to say because this is kind of deep division. Um, maybe she gets one more chance. I think she probably does. They just let Cowboy Oliveira go after a 4-fight skid. And he's a very entertaining fighter and a decent name. So it really depends on how much money she's on. To be honest, I think it doesn't matter so much about how high your losing streak is. It matters about how high your show money is.
That's what I mean. It's about the money.
If you're on 5 to show and you've only racked up a 5-fight losing skid, but they were like fun fights or they were close fights, shit, you might be kept around just as a non-commodity. It really depends on how much churn's going on in your division. She might be all right. I think the money's going to dictate that.
I agree with that. And then last fight, Julio Arce versus Santos. This was a really fun fight, man. And Golden Gloves boy Arce boxed the absolute pants off the debuter.
And he needed it because this is another one that missed weight. You guys see the story about this one?
They didn't let him weigh
back
half
a pound, but he showed up late. He showed up late to weigh in half a pound over. He didn't even show up in time to get his extra hours allowance. If he'd shown up like 5 minutes earlier, he would have been given a whole nother hour to like make that.
That's
lose that half pound. Yeah, that is really poorly organized and really poorly worked.
That's very poorly done. But he looked great in the fight.
Fuck it. Yeah, he did. He looked fantastic.
So smooth boxing. Well, no, man, fucking great card. Bit top heavy, but a lot of other fights delivered. Lots of storylines, lots of excitement. Sly, have you got any news for us as we move across?
Not much. Cejudo is kind of the big news. No, I didn't have much else, I don't think. Let me double check. Cejudo was actually the only thing that I saw. I've been away, so I only came back a few days ago, so I've not really had time to catch up much on all the UFC stuff.
I don't think too much has happened.
News, but no, I didn't see anything.
Did you guys see the video of Paddy Pimblett weighing in at 202 pounds?
Yeah, he's a fat bastard now.
He's doing the old Ricky Hatton. To be fair, he didn't look like Ricky Hatton fat. He just looked like a little bloaty. I think it's more like splurging on shit food that's giving you like that extra water retention more than anything. Probably a bit too many bevies, but
it looks like bevy weight, to be fair, mate.
Oh, Nick Diaz is set to return to the UFC later in 2022. Nick,
I like that.
That's Nick Diaz.
Any words on an opponent?
No.
Oh, I hope it's a good one. It has to be a good one. All right.
Alex Oliveira has left the UFC.
Yeah, Cowboy Oliveira's gone.
Yeah.
One thing I just want to cover very quickly, because I've just seen this. Cain Velasquez has released his first statement for what's, quote, true victims of the case. So I'll read this out. To everyone that has expressed your support, my family, and I will never be able to thank you enough. From the bottom of our hearts and the depth of our souls, we are forever grateful for your love. Your selfless gestures and kind words have given me strength in my darkest times. The story is complex and slowly unraveling as we speak. To the true victims of this case, may God give you the strength to come forward. Though it is most difficult to relive the pain that has happened to you, in speaking the truth, justice will be served and your own true healing will start. I will never stop helping or loving my community and all of you. Thank you for loving me. Cain Velasquez. So I don't think there's any doubt that he's going to be his defense is going to be what a piece of shit the guy who was trying to shoot was.
I think the American legal system has some leeway for the mitigating circumstances. I mean, there's always that old anecdote. I don't know if this one's actually true, whether the pregnant lady gets away with the more severe murder charge by reasons of responsibility because of hormones or something. But I am aware that there have been cases where they have ridiculous. There was that kid hit someone speeding in his car and got basically a lenient sentence because he grew up in such a wealthy family that he didn't have reasonable expectations of like rules, law, order, boundaries, and stuff. You know, instead of pleading insanity, he pleaded, rich, bratty, nepotized little twat, and it worked. So it's
The legal
a
system
fucked up country.
makes no sense. How Casey Anthony never fucking went down is just bizarre to me.
I wonder if it had been worse if she'd Googled, how am I going to not go down with this if they know that I've definitely done it, you know. The shit they pulled out of browser history. But fuck them. Fuck
Weird
them all.
stories.
Except Kane.
On that,
Like Kane walked.
Oh, I've got
Okay.
another piece of news just
Go
to
on.
close it, since it's all about O'Malley. So O'Malley said that he wished he had cornered Peter Yan to guide him through the Aljamain Sterling fight. O'Malley has said that he's offered a few times to Yan and a member of Yan's team to corner him, but he did not get any replies. And he said that he could have been very useful.
But I think
Maybe.
Jan had his plan B set up and he was just kind of like pulling Aljo, not Aljo, Cejudo and O'Malley's legs when he posted what he posted online. But
what do you make of Peter Yan saying that he won round 2?
No,
he didn't.
not sure about that.
Why wouldn't he claim round 1?
I don't know.
I don't know. That tells you how little he really appreciates from the fight. He didn't even try to claim the close round.
I think maybe it's an English thing as well, but him demanding a rematch straight away, I think is. I understand how frustrated he is, but I think it was bad form. You know, so you gotta just get back in the queue. And in all fairness, you could argue that the first title shot he got was a bit premature for him anyway. If you look at the guys that he beat, and if you really think about it, he's been involved in 4 straight title fights, and technically now he's lost 2 of them. I think it's time for other people to get an opportunity.
Well, yeah, I mean, Dillashaw's going to get the next one, so
That's it.
it's all good. Guys,
On that
this
note-
week we've got Bellator as well on the Friday. I would love to do picks for the 2 title fights on Bellator. We've got the final of the light heavyweight Grand Prix.
This is a big card.
Yeah, it's 25-8 Beasting, Corey Hansen. And of course, we've got the
And
rematch
AJ
between
McKee.
Pitbull and AJ McKee. Yeah. Which I'm fucking buzzing for.
No, we can definitely
so
do
you guys, yeah. And as we said, won't throw it into the running title for the 12 weeks for the picks. It just built fun to the side. So don't feel like you have to go crazy doing your homework on the stats. Like,
that works
be
for
a
me.
bit of fun for me for the Bellator.
Have we got and we got UFC this weekend, Vicente Luque versus Bahal Muhammad, that we will also have a pick show for as well. So plenty coming. Guys, hit the like, comment, tell us your thoughts on the card. Have a great week. We'll catch you later on for the pick shows. Bye Dave, bye Chief, and bye Laurie.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Laurie. Bye, Dave.